Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Red for Anfield Index. It is Saturday, the 6th of September. It's that international break, isn't it? Now, this will split people, and some of you, because I know you watch from all different countries all over the world, which doesn't go unnoticed. Power to you if you love your country, you watch international football. Fair play. I think it's shy. Genuinely international football. I have zero interest in it. Or I'm lying a little bit. Of course, I'll watch the Euros, the World Cup, and all that. But the qualifiers and all that, I find it boring. Genuinely, no interest in it at all. I think the football is slower. It's not as exciting as the Premier League. It's nowhere near as exciting as the Champions League either. But if you do like international football, power to you completely. I'm maybe like most of you, I might be wrong, just watching, praying and hoping that no Reds get injured. That is the aim for me. I'm your host, Dave Davis, coming to you from a pretty... Yeah, that sun's gone in Edinburgh. Fingers crossed it's nice in the world wherever you are, but right here, right now, bit fat boy slimmy. Yeah, it isn't really what we're looking for, but the sun may well have gone for the year. We'll see. But let's get into it. Let's get into all the latest Liverpool headlines, everything on AI at the moment. There is still quite a bit going on during the international break, and we'll talk naturally, as Mo Salah shows there on the screen, about the internationals, how everyone's getting on. Touch wood, fingers crossed. We're all fit so far, most importantly. We will have a little touch on Alexander Isak, of course, Rio Ngamoa and Federico Chiesa, because that was one of the big stories, wasn't it? Chiesa is not in Liverpool's Champions League squad. So that was that way. Yeah, and even Joe Gomez and a certain other player as well. Lee there, being honest and saying, I'm supremely unbothered by international football nowadays. I liked it years ago, but it's lost its luster for me. Yeah, there's just too much. And this whole Nations League pish, well, that's a different conversation. But we're here to talk about Liverpool, aren't we? And all things related to the Reds. And first up, it's the vice captain speaking. Some may have seen this interview, others may not have clocked it, but he was quite honest during international break. You forget Robbo is captain of Scotland. They got a goalless draw away in Denmark last night, so a decent result for them. But he was asked about his role within the squad because, Milos Kerkez has started 3 games, hasn't he? There's no steering away from that. And he was pretty honest in what he said, Andy Robbo. So what did he say? He said, it's not been awkward. I don't think awkward is the right word. I think it's been difficult for different reasons. I'm used to playing pretty much every game. I've been 8 years at Liverpool where, apart from the very start, I was always a starter. I was always playing. And now the first 3 Premier League games, I've obviously found myself on the bench, which is what it is. I'm not going to read you sort of the whole quotes and everything there, but he talks about his summer, and he did talk about maybe the most interesting part. He had a decision to make, didn't he? Because Atletico Madrid came calling, there were options. What was he going to do? And this is maybe the biggest line. We committed to that, and it's one I don't regret and I'm happy about. In the close season, I've worked probably harder than I've ever worked. And in pre-season, I've come back in really good shape, felt really strong, and felt really good in pre-season. I think I showed that in training and games. Well, games maybe not, because Robbo's not played, obviously, bar the odd few substitute minutes, of course. But yeah, I think people are linking this a little bit to why has he been named the vice captain where he's not going to play. I don't think that's a prerequisite at all, really, isn't it? In all honesty, you've got the leadership group of Virgil, Mo, Robbo, Alisson. Some will play regularly, some will play not so much. A bit like Robbo. In fact, you'll probably see him in what? The Carabao Cup? Yeah. Obviously, depending on touch wood, everything's okay with Kerkez. I suspect that will be the next game. But he's there for more than just or other things than on the pitch, isn't he, with this group? important for him to set the tone and lead. And I think it's good to end it with that line, as he said there. I will be ready when called upon. Yeah, and he will be needed at some point this season. In terms of the internationals, you may see it differently. I am just probably looking for news that they've come back. They're all good. And there were some pesky Gravenberch rumours doing the rounds the other night, wasn't there? That he was injured, but he played obviously for Holland, so we were all good there. But what are the latest international rounds-ups? If you take a look on the official site, Ali keeps a clean sheet, and he is going to the World Cup in America. So it was early hours of Friday morning as Brazil beat Chile 3-0 under Ancelotti. God, you forget he's their new manager. So Ali all good. Alisson has qualified. He will be going to the World Cup in the summer. But maybe from the South American contingent, this was the biggest news. Alexis McAllister was an unused substitute for Argentina as they picked up 3 points in a victory over Venezuela in Buenos Aires. And it's been a difficult start for McAllister. I mean, he's had a horrendous pre-season when he was injured, wasn't he? He didn't train much. He's a bit behind the group. And the first 3 games, he literally looked like he's been playing with a 20-kilo burden on his back, running around. He really has. And it was telling that when Curtis Jones came on for him in that Arsenal game, that's when we really started to get a grip and you really felt the change there. And again, I'm just wondering if he's an unused sub. They've still got another qualifier. There are the early hours of Wednesday morning coming up. So I think he's actually the last one to play for the clean bill of health. But you just wonder, did he need to go? Really? If you know he's not fully fit, Scolari? Not Liverpool get a say in it, but just a thought on that. In terms of other player roundups, there were quite a lot that featured in Thursdays as well. Did anyone clock this? 6 players. Connor Bradley clocked up 77 minutes, which maybe actually isn't the worst thing for him because he's had that injury period, hasn't he? They got a 3-1 away victory, Northern Ireland against Luxembourg, and they actually play tonight against Germany. So that's it in Group A. So maybe some minutes to help him get back up to speed a little bit. Touch wood, because we know what we don't want to happen isn't the worst thing in the world. Wirtz, did anyone see the highlights, by the way? I know he played for Germany and they lost 2-0 in Slovakia. But if you watch the highlights, he played all 90 minutes. He was one of the few Germans that came away with real credit. He had a really good game, as I saw from the highlights, created chances. So that's important to say. Keeping an eye on Wirtz versus Bradley later on today. The Dutch contingent, well, the 3 that were fit all played the full match, didn't they? Van Dijk, Grav, Gakpo, Jeremy Frimpong still injured. Obviously, we're hoping, touch wood, he's back after international break. Marmadashvili as well played for Georgia in a defeat to Turkey. And yeah, you kind of half keep an eye now on the Dutch games, don't you? Because there is that pesky Gravenberch rumour, but also 3 players, maybe 4 when Frimpong's back as well. It's a large part of our squad. There's no way of dressing it up at all. And then the final ones, things that happened yesterday, people. Hugo Ekitike made his French debut, coming off the bench, as it says there, with 10 minutes remaining. So fair play to Hugo. He's got that cap and he's in their squad. The other thing just to note is quite a few French players were injured. Doué had a knock. Dembele's now withdrawn, so he might even get minutes in their next game as well. Maybe in a different sense, which I didn't like. Ibu makes a great clearance off the line, but played the full 90 minutes. And you're saying, well, why didn't I like that? Don't forget, against Arsenal, Ibu comes off with cramp, doesn't he? And now he's playing 90 minutes. And we know Ibu's injury record at the same time as well. Yeah, not something I find ideal, but not trying to insult anyone who's French at all. Salah, of course, he's captain for Egypt, of course, he nets in a 2-0 victory. Tuesday is his last game as well, if he plays, of course. We talked as well about Andy Robbo, Jayden Danns, and this one, the £125 million super signing, Alexander Isak. This is one that, I've got to be honest, completely mystifies me a bit. Sweden's next game is Tuesday, Kosovo away, and it'll be interesting to see if he gets any minutes in that one at all, but not a single minute last night for them, which kind of, for me, bears the question. But if he's not fit, which is very, most likely, he's not ready to play, where's he gone? He could have been working back at AXA. They could have done behind, the scenes, the closed doors friendlies, that type of thing. It just seems a bit strange. So I know a lot were keeping an eye on that game, thinking, are we going to get a sight of Isak? But just unused. And the fact it was 2-2, you thought, well, they just throw him on, break glass in case of emergency. But they didn't even think he was ready for that. The only footage people have got of him is the sprints afterwards, isn't it? So it does seem a little bit odd, that one. Also, it begs the question, well, if he's not ready for games now, he's not going to be ready for Burnley, is he? A week tomorrow. It may be minutes off the bench at best. Yeah, just all seems a bit pointless, but Tomlinson, the manager there, was honest about it afterwards as well. So that is your key international roundup. In terms of games today, you're looking at them, and there's always a sense of sadness now, isn't it? Of course there is when we look at Portugal games. He's no longer our player, Queven Kelleher, but he'll be lining up with two of them that currently are. So Zabozlai and Kirkes, 7:45 tonight, are playing in the Aviva. Just looking else. If you look down as well, you've got the England game, so maybe Curtis Jones might play some minutes there. We'll see. And tomorrow, just to sort of lean into it, as we said, you'll have Wirtz versus Bradley there. Marmadashvili will be playing tomorrow. Probably you suspect all three will be playing at 5 p.m. tomorrow as Lithuania take on Holland. Yeah. And as we said, the very last ones, just to put it on your radar, the South American boys. They finish in the early hours of Wednesday ahead of the Sunday game coming back. So that's your international roundup there. Those are all the key call-outs. Maybe you'll watch it today. I will not be joining you. There you go. In terms of other news as well, say there's a few here. Joe Gomez was an interesting one. I mean, at one stage, it looked like he was heading to Milan, didn't he? They matched the wages. It was about 13 million quid, something like that it was done. But actually, when that falls through, it turns out there was 3 clubs interested in Joe Gomez. That actually, as well as AC Milan, who pulled the plug because they didn't have time to do the medical and everything, Brighton and Crystal Palace. Now, Crystal Palace we know about because they'd already made an earlier loan offer for him, hadn't they? And it was all over wages and that type of thing. And Liverpool were only willing to bend so much. But actually, Brighton coming in for Joe Gomez late on. And as per the various reporting, it seems the only reason the Joe Gomez move fell through, salary coverage. Brighton not prepared in that loan to cover the percentage Liverpool were looking for. Who would have thought there'd been so much interest in Joe Gomez around deadline day, but that is what happened. In terms of other Premier League news, we said Alexander Isak didn't get a single minute, and we heard all the stories throughout the summer, didn't we, about civil war at Newcastle, players not being happy with him, kicking off, etc. And yet Dan Burn, a Geordie himself, was in front of the media talking about it, saying quite calmly, well, Alex is a mate, so it's a tough situation because you want him to be around and helping the team, but also understanding what he needs to do personally. I've got nothing but good wishes for Alex, no animosity. Well, that kind of ends that whole civil war, hatred. It was all part of the saga. Again, it's just wondering, do we see Alexander Isak for Sweden away at Kosovo on Tuesday? If we don't see any minutes, it will just come back to the whole, what was the freaking point in the first place? We'll see anyway, won't we? So those were a bit of transfer stories that were going on, doing the rounds today. But even bigger stuff, because he's been a jet setting, he's been doing everything, he's been booking 4 flights there and back at different times for away games for the Champions League. But we finally managed to snaffle Lewis Steele yesterday, and we asked him a manner of questions. Some I'm not going to give you all the answers to, because that would just be lazy. You can listen to the pod, you can watch it. But he talked about Rodrigo, he talked about Gay, he talked about Joe Gomez, he talked about João Pedro even, and him potentially being at Liverpool. But maybe the best thing that people like the most, look at that, One Loves comment, everything I've read on Ryan, like everyone else, about Olise. He talked about Olise. I'm not going to give it you all, because again, you can watch the pod, but of course I asked him about Michael Olise after he mentioned it in his Daily Mail Confidential column, didn't he? Let's just have a quick listen to what he said. At Liverpool.
Yeah, I think he will be a name that is discussed a lot next summer or the summer after, just because Bayern, from what I hear, are preparing for a big sale at some point in the next 12 months. Not sure why they would be doing that, but that's just what someone said. And Liverpool will be looking for a Mo Salah replacement, or not necessarily replacement, but a long-term successor, should we say.
So let's just go. You're not getting any more than that, because you can listen to it, you horny little tarts. If you want to hear more, you can watch it on YouTube. But a couple of things, as he says there, Bayern are maybe preparing for a big sale, and I don't know why. Well, a couple of things, doing even a bit of digging from last night on that. Bayern have their training ground project that they want to get done, and they actually had to pause it this summer because they didn't have the funds. That's absolutely crucial. Talking that, I don't know Bayern training ground well, but it's in serious need of redevelopment, and the estimates or costs for that were around 80 to 90 million quid to bring it up to modern top level standards. So that's the first thing to mention. The second thing to mention is because of the finances at Bayern Munich, and Max Eberl, their sporting director, came out and was pretty honest with this. They went for loans in the end, didn't they? That's what they almost got relegated to a little bit, hence Nicholas Jackson and all that on the last day, and almost having to get permission to do that from the board. So finances aren't exactly 100% as they'd wish, shall we say, from doing a bit of digging and speaking to our Bundesliga sources since Lewis mentioned that. So that's into the mix. Eventually as well, and I adore the Egyptian king, as you know. I think he's an absolute walking demigod. He's my favourite player. But time waits for no man, and eventually Liverpool will need to replace Mo Salah, won't they? There's absolutely no two ways about it. So is it this summer? Is it next summer? No one's completely certain. But there's a bit more Lewis mentioned, but you're not getting it. Come on. You can watch it. You can download it at Anfield Index from any of your normal sites there. We have got to talk a little bit more, though, about Olise. And talking about Olise, we've got to mention one of our heroes of the summer. I ain't talking Indy Callier. I'm talking Bayern Space. And a tweet that goes back all the way to the 22nd of August. Now, Bayern Space's big reveals, quote unquote, have rocked our world, haven't they, this summer? So what did he say? I can now reveal inside Bayern there is serious unease about my report on Michael Olise's release clause. The club was not expecting this information to surface so early. Let's get to an even bigger juice from this squeeze. Internally, Bayern are nervous. They know Olise's release clause is set between 90 million and 100 million, a figure well within reach for most Premier League clubs. They also know Richard Hughes has admired him since his early days at Reading, and that Liverpool view him as the ideal successor to Mo Salah, and that City and Chelsea will also be there after the World Cup. Oofed. Richard Hughes name check. City, Chelsea and us name check, which actually, if you go back to before Michael Olise did sign for Bayern Munich, City, us and Chelsea were all at the table for him, weren't we? And he is going to the World Cup. And I tell you, for France, I genuinely think Michael Olise could be a star. And I mean that. And that's against, if you think of their squad like Dembele, Doué, Mbappe, all those players. I generally think Michael Olise could be a star. If that clause does exist, 90 and 100 million, I think there'll be a rack of queue, just a queue for the player. He will have a choice to make. And even last night, just the nonchalance with which he kind of just strolls and just calmly pops it away with that wand of a left foot, placed so nicely. Does give you a sort of future Salah vibes, if that's even a word, but I'm going with it anyway. There is so much to like about this kid. And it's not all just stats, but don't get me wrong, but we'll have a look at some of them. Funnily enough, Michael Olise last season, he's only 23 as well, actually got exactly the same number of assists as Mo Salah. 23 assists Michael Olise got last season. Only difference is he got 20 goals, which is not to be sniffed at at all. Mo Salah got 34. So 14 more goals there. But if you look at that last season across 55 games and less minutes, Michael Olise got 43 goal contributions. That's insane, isn't it? For a 23-year-old. And for anyone who wants to criticise, get it out your system that he's playing for Bayern, it's the Bundesliga, the clubs are weak, all that type of thing. Analysts would also say, for analysing the Bundesliga, it's 0.84, so you knock 16% off statistics when comparing it against the Premier League. But this kid has come from, he's not a kid really, he's 23, don't get me wrong. This player has come from the Premier League as well. He's just an absolutely insane talent. And when you actually look or take a minute and just sort of have a walk through Michael Olise's profile on FBref, especially when you see who he's being compared against as well. I mean, look at that. It's just an absolute sea of green. And maybe the only thing people will talk about, if you want to be hypercritical, you look at some of his defensive things, but look at Mo's defensive stats. That's not his game, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, just literally look at Olise's stats on FBref. There's 6 different things in the 98th percentile. Assists, expected assisted goals, shot creating actions, 6.31 a game. Passes, he's a great passer as well with that left foot. Progressive passes received, very similar to Mo in terms of they want to get him the ball in the deadly areas to make things happen. Honestly, even shots. Shots again. 3.54 over that magic number that Bart's talks about, 3.5, 94th percentile there. Everything about Michael Olise's stats are absolutely top notch. And you should never just do this directly, but we never really like to do it. But when you compare him, overlay him against Mo Salah, a slightly different type of player, again, remembering that Mo got 34 goals last season. But I'm just going to be honest, in terms of successors for Mo Salah, I think you're looking at top-notch, number one. Now, kind of alluded to this on the transfer show and spoke about it before an Anfield Index. There are other players. It's not, just this, but Michael Olise, if he does cost between 90 to 100 million and is Mo Salah's successor, I think that would be outstanding business longer term. Next summer at the earliest. We will have to see. But Lewis Steele was honest about it. We have got to keep an eye on that one. Let's just hope as well Bayern Space is right in what he's saying. If you are thinking, I'm bored of the international football, when's the normal stuff come back? It is next weekend, isn't it? It is a Premier League campaign, but we don't play until Sunday, a week tomorrow, Burnley, 2:00. At which point, you do wonder, will Alexander Isak be on the bench? We'll have to see. Other little tidbits to bring you. I don't know why some people have jumped on this as a negative, because we're speaking about Bayern Munich and Michael Olise. Luis Diaz talking about joining Bayern Munich. Former Liverpool winger, Colombia international. Actually, this was a quote that Romano sort of pegged earlier this morning. It's definitely always special to play for a big club, and Bayern is one of the big clubs. I'm very happy I joined the right team, the right group. I'll continue to work hard with both feet on the ground and focus on what's to come. If you look at the comments for this, some Reds have been like hypercritical of it. I have absolutely zero idea why. It is special to play for a big club. He was at the biggest club. And Bayern, to be fair, are European royalty. You look at their history, and anyone who doubts different is a fool, really. So I don't mind this comment. And also, what are we honestly expecting him to say? Do you know what? I was at the Reds, but the best I could get is Bayern, basically, because they gave me the deal I wanted, and Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes wouldn't. You're going to get a true serum out of him that way, aren't you? I've got absolutely no issue, zero issue whatsoever with Luis Diaz saying this. Doesn't mean I'm going to watch Bayern games or Luis Diaz, but he always played a massive part in that title win last season. So why people are jumping on this? Absolutely zero idea. But there you go. In terms of AI content, even with it being an international break, just have a look at all the stuff we've brought forward for you in recent times. Even in the last day, 24 hours. You had that final bit, me and Trev talking about Europe, Saudi, and the effect on that to finish the transfer window. You had Dave talking about Michael Olise there. You had me and Bart on the analysis talking about the defence, the midfield, how we could unlock Florian Wirtz, and the attack. Even could Isak and Ekitike play together? What threat do they bring at the same time? You had Grizz and the Red Room talking about the fullback situation with Zaboslai there, and, as I say, the Dreamland business from the summer. Plenty of that. And even this morning, you got it released again, the first part, talking to Lewis as we got him yesterday afternoon because he finished all his business lunches and his Zoom calls around Olise. A bit on Gay. And again, I'm not going to share it on here. You're going to have to watch it if you want to know. Rodrigo, what really happened. João Pedro in Liverpool as well. What really happened. It's all on there for you. Well worth a watch if you do get any spare time. Well, there you go, ladies and gents. I think the international break shy. However, maybe a bit of a rest for McAllister. Isak, the positives there. Touch wood, we're keeping an eye on the fixtures to think it's, everyone stays healthy, as it were. But that's all it is for me. We're all sort of casting our eyes forward down the line to Burnley a week tomorrow. Plenty still going on in the world of the Reds that way. But there you go. Saturday, the 6th of September. That was another Daily Red for Anfield Index.